You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
I'm Drew Leiter.
And I'm Cletus Jacobs.
And welcome to episode 10 of the Legends of the DCU. Tonight we're talking Absolute Flash number 8, Absolute Wonder Woman number 15, Absolute Batman Ark M Special number 1, Absolute Wonder Woman 2026 Annual number 1, and The Sandman Season 2 Episode 10, Long Live the King. But before we get into that, let's talk some DC news. All right, Cletus, first up for DC News. DC spotlights the summer of Supergirl with a new one-shot special this June, featuring an all-star creators. So we got Sophie Campbell and Beline Ortega, Mark Waid and Cian Torme, Gail Simone and Emma Kubert. This celebratory anthology brings together an all-star roster of writers and artists for a trio of stories honoring Kara Zor-El's legacy across the DC universe. Summer of Supergirl Special number 1 arrives June 21st with more announcements to come as DC's Summer of Supergirl continues throughout 2026.
I like it, Drew. I mean, I always think it's a good idea to try and lean into as much as possible the stuff you've got coming out. We've talked about it. There's not really been the correlation between movie success and comic sales success, unfortunately, over the years. But nonetheless, I think it's always a smart thing to do because you never know, you might catch a reader that sees the movie and it's like, oh, you know what? I really want to find something like that.
Yeah, totally agree with you. And yeah, we've seen it time after time that the movies don't necessarily mean more comic sales. And speaking of the movie, let's move on to our last bit of DC news, the Supergirl trailer. I'm guessing you've seen it by now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Drew, I'm super excited by this second trailer. For anybody listening that's maybe not checked it out, I understand, if you're somebody that wants to be surprised by the movie, I don't know what it gives away or not, but it does give, I think, a better feel of what the plot for the film will be. And I'm even more sold on it than I already was, Drew. I was already all in on this movie because it's based on a comic that I really, really enjoy and I recommend to people pretty frequently. And the trailer, for me, Drew, was very promising because it felt like I was, obviously there are changes, like, Lobo's not in the comic at all, but it followed the basic premise, I thought, pretty closely. And that's very exciting to me because, again, I really like that story. And so I'm pretty inclined to like a live action adaptation of it.
Yeah, when I watched the trailer, it felt like I was seeing the miniseries on the screen. So, like you said, with some changes, but it felt like the story to me. And I was excited about that. So I'm looking forward to seeing this when it comes out, that's for sure.
Yeah, I can't wait, Drew. I'm so excited for that movie. We've got some other cool superhero stuff coming out from DC and from Marvel, and I'm excited for all of it. But Supergirl legitimately, truthfully, is the one I am most excited for just because I love that story. I'm really excited to get our next taste of the James Gunn interpretation of the DC universe. So, yeah. I can't wait, Drew. I really, truly am. It's exciting for me to be the most excited and optimistic about a DC movie. I haven't really felt that in quite a while. So, I mean, we were both pretty optimistic about Superman, but there was also a little bit of nervousness, like, oh, but what if it's not good? Like, what happens then? With Supergirl, like, I will say, I don't think it's good. If it doesn't do well, I think that could potentially be more damaging than we would like to what films get made, but I'm not that nervous about it. And I'm mostly just really excited to get another film in the universe.
I think with the big turnout for Superman, there'll be a big turnout for Supergirl. And what I think will happen is people are going to see it and realize this is a little different than what we are used to with superhero movies. And I think it's going to get a lot of word of mouth.
I do too. I mean, that was something Superman benefited from a lot, was very, very strong word of mouth. And I hope that this film won't be any different. Like I said, I'm in. I will be seeing that first weekend, no doubt. I can't wait.
Yeah, especially since we're going to be reviewing it.
Right, but even if we weren't, that would be a movie that I would be. I almost always tend to see those types of movies fairly quickly, especially because I work with middle schoolers who don't always have great filters on what they've been doing over the weekend. They're not even doing it to be mean. They're just like, "Hey, guess what I saw and guess what happened?" You're like, "I don't want to know." So I'm
I
always
can understand that.
the best prevention of that is to have already seen the film myself. And plus, this is what both of us just this is our passion. It's what we like anyway. So I'd probably be seeing it anyway, but this is one like I can't wait. I keep checking the release date because I'm like, oh, is it soon yet? I'm very excited.
All right, well, that wraps up DC news for this week. Let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll do our comics talk.
Step into the golden age of entertainment and beyond. Join the crew of Tales from Hollywoodland for a fast-paced, behind-the-scenes journey through the history of film, television, and show business. From legendary stars and classic movies to today's biggest stories in Hollywood, we've got it covered.
Lights.
Camera.
Action.
Subscribe now to Tales from Hollywoodland, your backstage pass to the world of entertainment.
And we're back. Let's talk Absolute Flash number 8, The Life and Death of Barry Allen. Barry Allen, once a brilliant Princeton researcher, is now teaching undergrads at Keystone University. Elenore Thawne, granddaughter of the vanished wartime scientist Eobard Thawne, appears in his classroom. She tempts him with the chance to revive the groundbreaking work he abandoned years ago. Elenore brings Barry to Fort Fox, where her grandfather's obsession attempts to reach an alternate dimension called Still Point ended in disaster. Barry's dormant genius immediately reignites as he corrects Eobard's equations and builds his portable generator. 2 years later, as Project Olympus shifts its focus towards militarized applications and the alien technology recovered from the crash ship in Still Point, Barry grows increasingly frustrated. He believes Elenore has lost sight of their original mission, prioritizing weapons and safety protocols over true scientific discovery. After being barred from leading the first expedition, Barry bonds with Rudy West's son, Wally, encouraging the boy's curiosity. The successful survey only deepens Barry's resentment as Elenore delays red matter collection. Despairing, he returns to the portal chamber where a voice calling his name and tendrils of red lightning lure him into a vision of a future version of himself, warning that Barry must stop and that Wally West is the key before disintegrating in front of him.
I really enjoyed this issue, Drew. I loved getting the flashback. We see Jay Garrick pop up. We see Eobard Thawne, which I had just kind of accepted that we were getting a different take on Eobard. And the like sexual tension between her and Barry, I was like, oh yeah, this is what an alternate universe is for. But then we actually get Eobard Thawne in the past as well with Jay Garrick, and that I feel like those two guys will probably pop up at some point. Probably not anytime soon, right? But I wouldn't be shocked if we see either of them actually pop up again. I have to say, Drew, really across the board with all of these books, they've done such a good job with not only telling an entertaining story, but they just get you totally hooked onto like, oh, what's going to happen next? Or like, what's that about? Like, I haven't felt so excited in a long time about not just a single series, but like a world that's being built. Like the Absolute Universe feels to me, Drew, like what they want event comics to be. And they just really aren't anymore, which is that like waiting on the edge of your seat for the next month's issue to see what's going to happen next. And just, I mean, Flash has been great at Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, like all of them. Every time we get to the end of an issue or the end of whatever arc we're reading, I just like, it's really hard for me to stop because I just want to know what's going to happen next.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. What I really liked about this issue was, we basically got the backstory of Barry Allen because we've been kind of waiting on this. I mean, they introduced him early in the run, and then, after he was gone, we didn't really know much about him. And I like the fact that this issue basically told us his story. So I like that a lot. And I like the inclusion of Eobard and Garrick, like you said, which I'm sure they'll pop up in the future. And I really enjoyed this issue. And it's building on Wally's world here. So, and the whole absolute world in general, because we're starting to see in the different books, we're starting to see more bits and pieces of the bigger picture being revealed, and it's exciting.
I agree. And bigger picture within the world, but also just the bigger picture within the book, right? Like Green Lantern is increasingly making sense. Flash is increasingly making sense. Like we certainly don't even have a large picture, but we have a little bit of a picture of what's going on with these books now. But there's still a lot of mysteries of what is the spaceship that they found, Drew? What's that about? You know what I mean? And what are some of the other, I mean, I assume, most of the weapons and stuff are going to be manifested in the rogues, which we've already seen quite a few of them, right? But I feel like there's a couple others that we haven't hit yet. What's the deal with Jay Garrick and Eobard? They're probably going to come back. Like, there's so much, like you said, that the world is starting to feel a little more tied together between the books, but also we're just getting more world within each specific book too, that to me at least is super tantalizing, and just wanting to know, like, okay, like the spaceship that they find in this alternate dimension, what's that about? Like, I want to know. I know we will. Like, that's the thing. I'm not mad about it. Like, I'm excited because I know we're going to find out more about it, and I can't wait.
Yeah, and the thing about these books are we don't know what's going to happen because it's fresh. Unlike the original world, a lot of times they reboot stuff and just rehash things over and over again.
Well, that's because you can't fundamentally really change stuff, right? Like you can't make the main universe Batman suddenly be an axe wielding Hulk, right? Like that just wouldn't work. But you can do it in an alternate universe, right? Because you're not sacrificing what Batman's always been. He's still there. You can still read his book, and I think Matt Fraction has been very well received with his book, right? But if you want something a little bit different, a little more violent take, a little more exaggerated with all of the craziness in the Batman universe, you can get that. Same thing with Wonder Woman. All of these characters, they've not been afraid to take risks and do stuff that's different because it's not the main book. And so it's kind of giving them permission to do things that they wouldn't normally maybe be inclined to do, and they certainly wouldn't be allowed to do in some instances. Can you imagine, Drew, a book where there's a strong romantic tension between Thawne and Barry Allen?
Yeah.
Thawne. To be fair, Thawne has always had a weird obsession level that I think some writers have done different things with, but like nothing like what we're seeing with this book. And that's what's so fun. Like you hit it perfectly on the head, Drew. Is that we don't know what's going to happen because they can kind of do anything, and they've shown that they will do anything. The one thing that I really like that they've done that New 52, for example, was also a more dedicated universe reset, right? There was no alternate option. It just was the New 52. And like you said, they just sort of ultimately rehashed a lot of stories. They put their own new spins on them, but they were still fundamentally doing the same thing. These books have not. Like, we're getting Ra's al Ghul as the main Superman villain, right? And they didn't change or back away from that. It was Ra's, right? And just very different takes, and they're showing that they're willing to do different things. Have Hawkman be a villain, right? Have Batman's normal rogues gallery be his friends, and then actually stick to that too. It just makes it all very exciting because, like you said, we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, they killed off Oliver Queen. We have Wonder Woman's mother being Cersei. A lot of changes. Joker that's a millionaire and Bruce being poor. They're just doing a lot of interesting stuff. All right, well, let's move on to our next title for this week. Absolute Wonder Woman number 15, The Mark of Hecate. Veronica Cale secretly partners with the Joker to undermine growing public faith in superheroes. Together, they lure Wonder Woman to Gotham with a magically projected bat symbol designed to provoke her into action. The signal draws her into her first encounter with Batman, setting the stage for an uneasy alliance as they investigate ritualistic murders marked by Hecate. Together, they uncover that the witchcraft-style murders were staged to lure Diana into a trap. Their investigation leads them to an abandoned church where a coven attempts to seize control of a clay construct using Diana's stolen hair and blood. The ritual briefly turns her against Batman until he uses her gifted talisman to break the spell and restore her mind. The plot, orchestrated by Cale and inspired by the Joker's tale of the last Amazon, culminates in an explosion that Batman and Wonder Woman barely escape. In its aftermath, Veronica Cale reveals her corrupted, inhuman hands and makes clear that her plans for both heroes are far from over. Outside the ruins, Diana and Bruce acknowledge that the trap was meant for both of them and exchange information about other emerging heroes. As snow begins to fall, she calls him Bruce and expresses hope that they and Superman will one day stand together to save the world.
I loved this crossover, Drew, and it much like the absolute evil that we read, this one I thought did a lot to really kind of start to tie the world together and feel a little more connected. And I love the pair up of the two of them. It was really fun. I liked the trap that the Joker is trying to lay, and the idea that in a sense, if Wonder Woman is made out of clay, she's essentially a golem. I liked that idea a lot. I thought that was super smart. It's just a really fun story, Drew.
I totally agree. I love the team up between Batman and Wonder Woman here. Their first meet up, and they're kind of, weary of each other, but they end up working well together. You got Batman, who's grounded, and you got Wonder Woman, who's been dealing with magic. Working together in this mystery, it fit pretty good. I also liked the Joker in this just because so far the Joker hasn't really revealed himself yet to Batman, but he's been working behind the scenes a lot. We've seen it throughout the run. I like that it's building towards a confrontation to them to sometime in the future. I like the slow burn of it, that they're taking their time and not just jumping into it.
I agree completely.
All right, well, let's move on to our next title for this week. Absolute Batman, Ark M Special #1, A History of Arkham. Dr. Amadeus Arkham sells his decaying asylum in 1945 while reflecting on its tragic beginnings. He recounts how his mother suffered a devastating breakdown after learning her husband died in the Civil War, culminating in a horrific murder-suicide. That trauma ultimately drove Amadeus to build Arkham Asylum as a place of compassion for those like her. Raised in an orphanage funded by the Elliots, Arkham devoted his life to treating the mentally ill and upholding the compassionate mission he built his asylum upon. Even as he faced monsters like the laughing killer Jack Doe, he found hope in a mysterious orphan boy he took in and came to love as a son. In 1886, a brutal breakout led by John Doe left the staff dead and Arkham's adopted son missing, a wound that never healed. Decades later, the buyer, Jack Grimm, suddenly reveals the truth. The boy orchestrated the breakout, murdered John Doe, and mocked Arkham's ideals with a note, "Tomorrow's a new page." Horrified, Arkham uncovers John Doe's corpse hidden behind a false wall and realizes the asylum he built has been corrupted at its core. After sending a warning to the GCPD, he burns the institution down with him inside, unaware that Grimm has intercepted the message and watches the flames with satisfaction. In the present day, at Ark M, the Joker prepares new horrors for Batman as he oversees the next phase of his plan. With Deathstroke watching, he releases Pamela Isley and Kirk Langstrom from their cells.
I really enjoyed this backstory a lot. This was great. It gave great depth to the Arkham story within this universe that we know nothing about, right? But it also just told a really good story and yet another great, take on this version of the Joker and how twisted and evil he is. And it does a good job because you think that it's this other guy, and the book makes you think that he's Jack the Ripper, and that would have then turned into the Joker, but it's not, right? He's been dead the whole time. It's really just been this boy. Man, what a great comic. And it's a standalone. I highly recommend this one. If people are enjoying Absolute Batman, this is definitely one that I would go check out and read. It stands really well on its own. It's a great, single issue story. It's just very good.
I thought it was a great origin story for the Joker. Like you said, we thought that John Doe was going to be the Joker, and it ended up being the boy. And how twisted the boy was. He befriends Amadeus Arkham, making him believe that the boy is like a son to him, but he's manipulating things behind the scene. And it was a great twist. It was really good. I really enjoyed this issue also. And then at the end, preparing to see other villains coming out. Pamela Isley. So we're going to see Absolute Poison Ivy and an Absolute Man Bat. it's setting the stage for some future events. I really enjoyed it while giving us history on Arkham because, like you said, we knew nothing about it except for when Batman went in there and all that Bane stuff. But other than that, we didn't know any history about it. So, yeah, great issue. All right, well, let's move on to our next issue for tonight. Absolute Wonder Woman 2026 Annual #1, Cursing and Cursed. Diana is hunted after seeing through Medusa's eyes and realizing the depth of the Gorgon's suffering. She cannot find peace knowing that another soul remains trapped in such torment. Diana offers prayer after prayer to Athena until the goddess finally answers, and Diana pleads not for victory, but for the chance to show her enemies a better way. To prove her conviction, Diana relinquishes every power the gods ever gifted her in exchange for the ability to meet Medusa's gaze without turning to stone. Standing powerless yet resolute, Diana offers her green lasso, allowing Medusa to shed her monstrous form and transform at last, freeing them both from the cycle of fear and violence.
Another really good standalone story, Drew. I don't really, we talk about it frequently on the podcast anytime we review an annual where the story is really just kind of, usually at best it's fine, right? Like it's okay, but you don't really need to go out of your way to read it. And is this story ultimately super important in the long run with Absolute Wonder Woman? No, but it's really good. What was fascinating to me, Drew, is it's a different artist than what we normally get. And it definitely gives you a different feel because it's less stylistic and more, comic booky but realistic. I really liked it, but it was fascinating the different feel that it gave the book because we're used to a certain art style within Absolute Wonder Woman. But I really did enjoy the contrast because I thought the artist on this book was very good. It stuck out though. When you're reading, you're like, you're just getting a different look at these characters, and it gives you, I think, a little bit different, kind of perspective and take on them. I enjoyed that, and I just enjoyed the story. I thought it was a really nice standalone story. And again, I mean, do you need to go out of your way to read this one if you're buying it issue by issue? No, but if you're doing that, you probably just really enjoy Absolute Wonder Woman, and this story is just as good as the other one. So I wouldn't tell you not to get it either.
Yeah, I really liked this issue because it showed Diana's compassion. How deep her compassion is. This ties back into that first story arc where, she takes on that tester side and becomes Medusa to stop it. After becoming Medusa, she knows what kind of torment she's been in. And it gives her a real drive to, at least try to help Medusa. So I really enjoyed this story too. And like you said, you don't have to read this to know what's going on in the regular title, but it's really good. And for an annual, a lot of times annuals aren't this good, and this was really good.
Easily, this by far clears the bar for what I expect from an annual book. Way better, really, really good. Yeah, good, really good. I mean, not surprising, Drew, because I love this Absolute universe. I am so in on it, and these books are so good. But man, good crop of comics this week for us.
Oh yeah, I agree. I'm glad these titles kind of fell together because it worked for this week. I thought. It was fun reading these. I was excited to talk to you about these. All right. Well, that wraps up our comic book talk for this week. Let's take a short break. And when we come back, we'll talk the Sandman.
Hi, I'm Joe Heath.
And I'm Tony Heath.
And we host the Watchathon of Rassilon,
a podcast about Doctor Who.
We cover it all.
Classic Who.
New Who.
The Peter Cushing films.
The 1995 cult classic Tank Girl.
The unaired pilot of Star Trek.
A random episode of the 2003 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon.
One time, we just took a hike.
And, of course, Farscape.
The Watchathon of Rassilon.
We swear it's a Doctor Who podcast.
And we're back. Let's talk the Sandman, Season 2, Episode 10, Long Live the King. In the dreaming, Lita Hall and the Kindly Ones are welcomed by Abel to the House of Secret and the House of Mystery. They tell Abel that he will die for the last time. He is killed by Lita Hall. Merv Pumpkinhead shouts at Lita Hall and the Kindly Ones to throw down their weapons and surrender peacefully. He tells them he is their worst nightmare, a pumpkin with a gun. Merv fires his automatic weapon at Lita and the Kindly Ones. When he finishes firing, Merv stares out into the fog but sees nothing. Suddenly, bullets come flying back at him. Merv falls over dead. I like that scene, Cletus. First of all, I don't expect him to have an automatic weapon. And he just fires at him, thinking he's beat him, and then it has no effect on him whatsoever. And the bullets just come flying back at him. I just thought it was a cool scene.
I agree. My one kind of complaint, though, with last episode, we saw I can't think of it now, the green character. I can't think of his full name now. But then Merv and Abel, in all three instances, obviously you're seeing one of the core kind of Dream characters get killed in this crusade against Dream. But it just kind of felt mean, if that makes sense, Drew. And I know that that's sort of the point, that this is all vengeance, right? That this is done out of vengeance. But these are none of them have it coming to them, right? Which doesn't feel right with the idea of vengeance, because they've played no part in this. And I know that that's part of the point, is that it's supposed to feel unjust, and that's why Dream is trying to stop it. But also, I just didn't get, even by the end of this episode, Drew, I didn't really get any sense of satisfaction or payoff from their deaths. It sort of just felt mean, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think that does make sense, because honestly, they didn't need to go after these side characters. They're just after Dream, but they're just trying to destroy the whole realm for some reason.
But we don't really do. I think my biggest problem, Drew, is that we don't really. And I know we still have another episode left, so something can change. But we didn't really get any payoff for those characters' deaths. Like, they just kind of kill them and then move on, because they don't care, right? Like, the Furies don't care. Okay, fine. But we're not the Furies, Drew. Like, ultimately, the people who's you need to be appealing to is us, the audience, watching. And I didn't like the other characters don't even acknowledge that they died. Right? I think Kane maybe says one thing about Abel, but then he kind of moves on and is kind of over it. I don't think say almost anything about Merv, other than, right when the Crow gets back, he's like, oh, Merv died. But like, I don't know. It wasn't, I'm not opposed to those characters dying, Drew, but to me, it felt, I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but it just felt mean-spirited to the viewer, right? Where it's like, oh, you like these characters? Well, they're dead. Everything's coming crashing down. You're like, okay, but like, give me some sort of emotional payoff to those things, right? Because later in the episode, we get something that happens, and there's quite a bit of emotional payoff to that. But with this, it's just, they just sort of kill them, again, for no real reason. And then the story just sort of moves on, and I did not find that very satisfying.
Matthew flies back to the castle and finds Lucienne, Kane, the Corinthian, and baby Daniel. In Fairy, Queen Titania apologizes to Lord Morpheus, stating she only brought him there because she thought he was going to be safe. Dream replies that intent and outcome are rarely the same. Dream cannot stay, but he owes Lady Nuala a boon. Lady Nuala only asks that he leave here to defend the Dreaming, so that they may all be together one day. Morpheus states that is one wish he cannot grant her. Lady Nuala responds that if anyone can do the impossible, it is him. Back in the Dreaming, the Guardians ask the Kindly Ones to leave this place. The Griffin jumps down from his perch to guard the doorway. The Kindly Ones tell the Griffin that he is old and his bones are dried and brittle. Surrender to time and the grave. The Griffin shrieks and his bones creak, and he starts to die. Morpheus flings open the palace doors and exits, shouting, "Enough!" Morpheus attends to Griffin, using his powers to heal the beast. Morpheus.
Again, Drew, I want to jump in right here. Again, this was yet another scene where, like, I understand that the Griffin is one of the Guardians and that they have to go through him to get in. And so attacking him makes sense. But again, Drew gave me that feeling of mean-spiritedness where, like, they don't just kill him, right? There's nothing stopping them from just, like, killing him, but they go out of their way to get a very painful, slow death. But the Griffin's done nothing to them other than fulfill its obligation to be a Guardian. Again, this isn't a criticism of the characters, Drew. It's ultimately, this is the showrunners choosing that to be what they do. And it was like, maybe I missed some subtext here, Drew, but it was so mean-spirited. The whole thing, cruelty seemed to be the point of the Furies, which I know they are attached to Hippolyta, and she's like, they keep saying that she's their avatar and she's out for vengeance and she wants to hurt. And maybe that's the explanation for why they're being so cruel. But it felt like they were manipulating her to be cruel. I will admit, Drew, maybe I've just missed some subtext or I'm forgetting a plot point. I don't understand why they are so eager not just to kill Dream, but to like just dismantle everything. Like, again, it seemed so personal, everything that they're doing, and I just don't remember getting that vibe from them.
Yeah, I agree with you there. It did feel like the Furies were manipulating Lita and taking her beyond her just going after Dream.
Right, that's the thing. They're reveling in the cruelty of it, and that didn't. I will admit that this may be a fault with me as the viewer, Drew. I didn't understand why they were so personally invested in cruelty. Like, I understood why it's their job to fulfill like his thread needs to be severed, and they're the ones that do that. I get that, but it seemed very personal to the point where I was like, but why? I just maybe I'm forgetting something, Drew.
That's possible. Maybe something happened in season one we forgot about, but I don't recall anything with between Dream and the Fury, so I don't know. Morpheus invites Lita and the Kindly Ones to come into the palace. Inside the palace, Morpheus orders Lucien and the others into the throne room. They will be safe there. He will come to them once the Kindly Ones have left. The Kindly Ones state they will not be leaving this place. This castle is theirs now, to do with what they will. You and yours are no longer safe here. And that brings up another point. Why do they care if they have the castle or not? It's not like they're staying here.
That's the thing, Drew. Where I started to get a little confused as a viewer as to what exactly their goal was, because my understanding was that they're just trying to kill him because that's like he broke a rule and he must be killed because of that. And it's like, okay, I can get that. And I can get that they're going on the vengeance avenue because they're feeding off of an avatar that wants vengeance for her son. But again, the whole thing seemed personal and with the intent to conquer. Like, it felt like they were trying to conquer the dreaming. And that didn't really make sense to me.
Me as well. Morpheus greets Lita Hall, but the Kindly Ones answer they are more than Lita Hall. Morpheus states that they hurt his gatekeeper. Lita responds that Morpheus killed her son. Morpheus reveals that Lita has been deceived by those who would use her to achieve their own ends. Morpheus moves out of the way, revealing the Corinthian holding Daniel. The Kindly Ones state that that is not Daniel, not anymore. Lita pleads to be released, but the Kindly Ones state their work is not yet done. This is where the turning point is for Lita. She's kind of under the influence of the Furies. She finds out that her son is still alive, and she's basically done. But the Furies make her keep going. Lita states she does not understand. Morpheus replies that is because she is dreaming. It is time for her to open her eyes. Lita begins to open her eyes back at Mad Hetty's apartment, but the Kindly Ones argue that they don't rescue any, they only seek revenge. Morpheus tells Lucien and the others that he momentarily freed Lita Hall from the Kindly Ones' influence. They have withdrawn for now, but they will return. Morpheus is going to attend to Lita Hall because she powers this aspect of the Kindly Ones. Without her, they will cease their attacks until someone else petitions for his death. For this realm to survive, any threat to the dreaming must be destroyed. Back at Mad Hetty's apartment, she informs Morpheus that she does work for the Kindly Ones on the side. It's nothing personal. It's why she has lived to be 281 years old. Mad Hetty points out that they are all in this mess because of Morpheus. He did this to himself. They are all here because they lost a child. Danielle won't be much used to Morpheus, not Danielle. Daniel won't be much used to Morpheus once he learns that Morpheus killed his mom. Morpheus disappears while Mad Hetty begins to make tea. Back in Fairy, Lady Nuala goes to Clarican, demanding he remove the glamour and give her back her face, but he refuses. If she goes to the dreaming, then he will be alone. Nuala asks Clarican to go with her, but he states that he will die too. Then there will be no one to remember her. Clarican removes the glamour, and Nuala thanks him and leaves. Delirium and Goldie are on Earth looking for Barnabas. Everyone is staring at them, so she decides to put a string on him so he looks like a balloon. I thought that was funny. Morpheus returns to the dreaming, informing Lucien and the others that his decision to remove Lita Hall proved impractical. Morpheus plans to confront the ladies of the Fury before they harm anyone else. He will go to the edge of the dreaming and do what must be done. Morpheus explains that he has conversed with Daniel. The Eagle Stone will protect them all while he is away. Morpheus doesn't say goodbye, but thank you. Then he sends them all away. Matthew comes back stating he is going with Morpheus even if it means his end. Morpheus goes to a dark tower in the dreaming and calls for the ladies. He wants to settle this matter for good. They appear and it begins to rain. Elsewhere, Lucienne has a large glass ball and is trying to activate it so she can watch what happens to Morpheus, but it won't work for her. Both Abel and the Corinthian try to make it work, but it won't work for them either. When Daniel touches it, the ball powers up. The Corinthian decides to take it away from Daniel and have him play with something else. Dream sister Death appears, stating she is not here for any of them, but will wait for Dream's return. Back at the tower, Dream demands that the kindly ones leave his realm and stop harming those who live under his protection. They refuse. Dream asks Matthew to go back to the castle and bring his sister here. After Matthew leaves, Dream takes off his trench coat and drops it off the side of the tower. Back in Fairy, Lady Nuala is riding a horse. She is stopped by Queen Titania and two of her guards. The queen asks Nuala if she values her life. Nuala answers that her life is in the dreaming, with or without Morpheus, and with or without the queen's permission. Queen Titania draws her sword and tells Lady Nuala that she will not allow her to ride into battle without a sword. Lady Nuala rides through the porthole between worlds. Back at the Dark Tower, Dream reveals to Death that he is no longer the same. The dreaming is no longer the same. He still has his obligations, but even the freedom of the dreaming can be a cage of some kind. Death states that Dream could have left like Destruction did. Dream responds that he could not. The kindly ones ask Dream if he can feel that. They are destroying his home. Death shouts enough to the kindly ones. She has had quite enough of this. The kindly ones state that they are merely fulfilling their duty. Death demands that the kindly ones leave them alone. This is between her and her brother. Dream tells Death that there is a price for what he has done and he must pay it. Death answers that Dream is right. He is not the same as he once was. Dream states that he is tired. The kindly ones tell Morpheus that it is time. Death holds out her hand and Dream reaches for it. Elsewhere, Lady Nuala comes riding on her horse into the dreaming. She spies Lita Hall walking toward the castle. Lady Nuala rides up with her sword in the air and cuts off Lita Hall's head. Back at the tower, Dream touches Death's hand and there is a bright glowing white light. Back on Earth, Delirium is holding her golden balloon when Goldie disappears. Delirium realizes that Dream is gone. Back at Mad Hetty's apartment, Lita Hall wakes up. Out on the street, one of the dogs breaks away from Mad Hetty. It is Barnabas. He runs back to Delirium. Delirium offers Mad Hetty a reward for watching him, but she refuses because their rewards come with a price. Delirium can no longer feel Dream. He is gone. Delirium and Barnabas head home. Back at Mad Hetty's apartment, Mad Hetty returns informing Lita she got what she wanted. The Dream King is dead. Lita asks about Daniel, but Mad Hetty states that there is no getting Daniel back now, not after what she has done. Back in the dreaming, Lucienne notices the sun has come out and the quakes have stopped. The kindly ones have left. The Corinthian wonders about Dream. Dream answers he is here. They all turn to see a grown-up Daniel wearing a white robe. Lucienne asks, Daniel? Dream answers, no, not any longer.
Drew, apart from my quibbles with the deaths of the side characters, which I really, again, I wonder if I would have a better understanding if I would read the comic as well, but that part didn't stick with me. But everything else I really enjoyed with this episode. I like, essentially what appears to be a send-off with his sister Death makes complete sense. Like when she shows up, it kind of confirms what we have known since this arc started, was that it was not going to end happily. Because that's the only time that she shows up is when somebody's going to die. So I liked a lot of that, Drew, and I am very curious to see the final episode and where that goes. I feel like we're in for a few more twists and turns still.
I agree with you there. I'm excited to see what happens in the next episode too. So yeah, I'm curious what this new Dream is going to look like. All right. Well, that wraps up our episode for this week. Do you have a shout out, Cletus?
I do. So a couple weeks ago, Drew, I mentioned that I knew I recognized the name Daniel Hall, and I couldn't figure out what comic I knew it from. My guess at the time was Brightest Day, because that storyline ultimately results in the merging of Vertigo into the main DC universe, featuring some major Vertigo characters that are now pretty staple DC characters, like Constantine. And I thought that that's where I remembered him from, but I was wrong, because I was flipping through it earlier today, Drew, and he is not in it at all. But there is a comic series that you and I actually read the entire series of and reviewed it on this, and I think both of us had forgotten. Dark Knight's Metal. Daniel Hall is a main character throughout the entire story. He pops up right at the end of issue 1 and then continues to pop up throughout the rest of the story, and I had totally forgotten that.
So, yeah, I didn't remember Daniel Hall being in Dark Knight's Metal, and I don't even remember what role he played in it.
He is sort of guiding Bruce through the first parts of the story, and then, becomes more integrated with the rest of the group as the story goes along. And it is explicitly Daniel Hall, too. Not just the dreaming. So I was like, I remember as we were watching, Drew, I was like, man, I think I know that he's the dreaming. And I don't know why I would know that, because I've not read Sandman. And like I have not read Sandman, but I have read a couple like spin-off stories and like standalone stories that Neil Gaiman did involving the Sandman world, but I have never actually read this story. And so I was like, well, maybe I just know him from one of those like one-off issues, because I think there's one where he's interacting with Jade, the Green Lantern, and that I think I've read, and I think that might be in a collection of something. But it was bothering me for a while. It's like, I knew Daniel Hall was Dream, and I don't know why I would know that. And so I was personally relieved, Drew, when I was flipping through, I looked it up. I was like, what has he like, I needed to see what his appearances were, and it showed Dark Knight's Metal, and I was like, that's it. That's where I got it from. And so then I was flipping through that today, that story, and I was like, oh yeah, that's definitely where I knew him from.
All right. And for my shout out, I'm going to shout out about the Sandman on the DC Universe app, because it's on there. I downloaded the first issue and started reading it. And it basically starts off with the first episode in the series where we see Dream get trapped. So I haven't finished reading issue 1 yet, because, I've also been reading Kyle Rayner's run, his Green Lantern run. So reading that and not reading the Sandman. So I started it, but I never went back to it because I got interested in reading Kyle Rayner. So I'm kind of jumping back and forth between them, or trying to anyways. All right. If you'd like to comment on anything we've talked about this week, you can reach us at our feedback line, 317-455-8411. Text us, leave us a message, or you can email us at legendsofthedcu@gmail.com. All right, Cletus, coming up next week, we've got The Flash. We're going to be reviewing Flash number 19 through 25. And of course, our next episode of Sandman. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.